we're going to learn how to repair a couple of common mistakes. So here I have a sample fabric and I have two mistakes I've made. So here I put a purl stitch where it's supposed to be a knit stitch, and over here I dropped a stitch, which if you do not repair can unravel your entire project. So we're going to learn how to repair both, and it's very helpful to have a crochet hook. I always keep a crochet hook in my knitting bag because it makes these kinds of fixes just really simple. So the first thing you do is identify where the mistake is. My mistake is in this fourth stitch. My first mistake is this purl that was supposed to be a knit, and it lines up with this stitch right here, which is my fourth stitch. So the first thing you do is you just get yourself back over there with your needle. So I'm going to go ahead and just knit across until that column of stitches with the mistake. There we go. So now what you're going to do is you're actually going to just drop the stitches, the stitch for that fourth column. I'm just going to drop it off. And I'm going to pull out the little ladders until I get down to the affected stitch. So here's the one that's the mistake. So I'm going to pull it out. Okay. And then I'm going to go ahead and scooge up my other needle so I'm sure I'm not going to lose any other stitches while I'm fixing this one. And you want your knit stitch to be in front, so I always find it easier to go in from the knit side, you know, as opposed to trying to work in the back on the purl side. And you can see now I have my loop and I have my ladders all the way going up. So what you do is you put your crochet hook right in the front of that loop. And then you also put it through just one more loop. And you pull that loop, the one that you just added, that first ladder, you pull it through the first stitch. And now you've corrected that stitch. And now you just keep doing it. Your crochet hook is already set up. You add one more ladder to it and you pull through that first loop that was on your crochet hook. So now you're down to just the one stitch. You do the next ladder, you just do them one at a time all the way back up. And again, like I said, it's easiest to do this from the knit stitch side. You can do it from the back. You just have to kind of think the opposite way. And then make sure that you put your stitch on so it's not twisted. Remember, like this, with the right side, the front going toward the right and the back of the stitch going toward the left. And then you are ready to just go again. And if we'll go a couple stitches and then we'll take a look at that. Okay. So now you can see the stitch is repaired and it's a knit stitch. It's true that sometimes your yarn will be a little puckery because it wasn't done right the first time, but usually when you block it, it will pull that right out. So here's our other problem, is that in this space here, we dropped a stitch. So again, we're going to just knit our way over to where that mistake is. And if it was a long ways away, I might actually go ahead and have put a safety pin in that, so I was sure while I was getting back around, it didn't unravel any farther. And again, I pull out my needle so I don't lose any more stitches. It looks like I just dropped it the row before, just one row back. So again, I make sure that the stitch is all lined up and vertical, you know, just like it should be. It's not twisted around, just coming straight up off those other stitches. My crochet hook goes in the front from the, as I'm looking at it on the knit side. I've got one little ladder, so I put that one little ladder on my crochet hook and I just pull it through the loop. And then that one goes on my left needle with the proper orientation. And then I'm ready to knit again. So one thing that happens, if you did that, if you lost a stitch a bunch of rows back, it might get a little bit puckery. And so sometimes you just actually have to go back a couple of rows to pick that up if it's too far down. But usually if it's just one row down, you can pick it up without it making too much of a mess in your work. So that is how to repair two common issues when you find a mistake, how to fix them without having to undo your entire project.